Hi, welcome back to Inge's Knitting Lab Along and our project making this lacy cable tee. In the last episode I showed you how I make this V-neck Icord band, and in this episode I will show you how to join the ends here. I have two success criteria when making this seam. One, it has to be seamless, and two, it has to be a no-feel seam. So I have made myself two tests to pass. So first, the seamless test is passing the infinity chain test. So when looking at this chain of I-cord stitches, I will not be able to see where it starts and ends. And in order for me to pass the no-feel seam test, I have to pass what I call the slide test. So I slide my finger across or over the seam, and I will not be able to feel the seam. So let's see by my method here if I can succeed passing my tests. When I am to learn a new technique, I simply have to understand the logic behind it and how it's all connected. So as I'm also a visual learner, I have prepared illustrations here for you to see, and I walk through the process, the technique step by step. If you would like to see me do the seaming in real time, then fast forward to the end of the video. While making such a video, I spent 6 minutes doing a seam. Maybe I can do it faster without the camera, but at least I've had a lot of practice, because you have 4 seams on a tee, 2 sleeves, the v-neck and the bottom hem, and I've made 12 tees already. So that's almost 5 hours of seaming in total. Usually I do the seaming in the end of my project when finalizing it, because then I'm in flow with the same kind of technique. But in the end of the video, you will see the fruits of this practice. So especially the Kitchener stitches are much faster when I'm not instructing. But you will see the instruction while doing the bottom hem. It doesn't matter which place it is, it's exactly the same principle. I have just finalized the I-cord bind off here at the bottom hem of my tee, and this leaves me with 2 ends to be joined. One is the open one with the working stitches still being on the needles, and the other one is a closed one with the cast on stitches I did to initiate the I-cord band. So how do I join these 2 ends not looking the same? We need to mirror the stitches here on the working needle over here, so that we pick up stitches to get on this needle. And while doing so, I find 4 elements key to meet the success criteria of the seamless and no-feel seam. First of all, we need to lock the orientation of the piece so that we do not confuse ourselves during the process. And then we need the stitches to be picked up right, turned right on the needle, and sewn right together. And in this video I will show you step by step on how to do it, so that we 1. Keep our orientation locked, 2. Identify the right stitches to pick up, 3. Turn the stitches right on the needle, and 4. Sew the stitches right together. So let's get started. First of all, I have cut the tail here, and as a rule of thumb, you need at least 4 times the width of the band here, so that you have enough for the Kitchener stitches and to weave in the ends afterwards. I take extra to be on the safe side. And then I need the tools to be in place. I need a darning needle, and I prefer one which has a slightly bent tip, because it helps during the process, and I keep it here on this magnetic plate. Then I need a double pointed needle to help me pick up the stitches. And I also have a crochet hook at hand if I should lose a stitch and need to pick it up. This is easier. As you can see, I have now turned the piece to lock the orientation while working the seam. So I will keep it this way all throughout the process. And I've made this small illustration to keep track of the 4 key elements here. So let's have a look at the knitting direction. We cast on the stitches here and we worked our way around the band until here. So when we look at the illustration, we have the same knitting direction of the closed end being closest to ourselves and the open end here. So this means that we turn the working stitch upside down. Let's have a look at the stitches as they look while doing the I-cord band. You see now here the cast on end closest to me, and these are the V stitches we create when we work the I-cord band. So 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one is always hidden on the back of the I-cord band here. So now that we turn this piece upside down, these V stitches will turn into A stitches. So we have A stitches both here and here. And this is very important information when we now say that we would like to mirror this one, because this is not a mirror. They look the same. So let's move on to step number 2. Step 2, where we want to identify the right stitches to be picked up. So we just saw before that this is the first stitch when we work the I-cord band. However, we want to mirror this one. So we don't want it to look like an A. We want to have it look like a V. And in order to do that, we need to skip the first leg here. And then we get the V. So this is the first V, the second V, and the third V. But the fourth V will only have one leg because we skipped the first leg over here in the first stitch. So now we have identified the right stitches. It is these ones, the V's here, and actually it is easy because this is the chain, the V chain that catches our eyes when we look at it. So these are the right ones. However, when we catch the stitches, we want them to be as close to the edge as possible to meet the success criteria of a no-fill seam. Because if we pick them too far, where they are easy to see, then we get this bulky piece that we can feel when we connect those two. And we also get a stretch. You see, we get a fold. So we don't want that. We just want it to be here at the end. No can do. So now that we have identified the right stitches to pick up these V's, it's time to do the pickup and to turn them in the right way on the needles in this step 3. So let's have a look, a closer look, because we have this cast on end here. And when we look at the cast on end here, it looks like these V, like a V chain. So these are the base stitches of the cast on. And again, we wanted to pick up the stitches as close to the end as possible. So these cast on loops, they kind of lean to the right like this. So in order for us to look at this V and get the right stitch, let us move this right leaning leg aside or base to see how to do the pickup. We see that we catch a leg inside the V, so that's fine. However, this leg from the first stitch here that we don't use is teasing us a bit, being crossing this leg. So we now to move this one aside so that we can pick up this leg like this. So now we are inside the first V. We look at the next one and we have this leaning to the right here. So again, I catch this one, I turn it over like this so that I can now pick up this leg of the V like this. And now I move on to the third one. Again, it is this one leaning to the left. I move it over so that I can see the V leg here. And finding the last stitch is another story, because we only have one leg left, as we saw here, so we have to grab this, not looking like a full V, like this. So now we count in fours. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. So now in this step 3, it is also time to see if we have turned the stitches right on the needle. And in order to do so, we look at this one as a reference, because we want to look at it in the knitting direction. And look here, the base of the V here. So we have the front leg of the upcoming V being in front of the needle. So using the continental style knitting, we could knit it this way. And as we want to mirror, it has to look exactly the same on this needle. So now I need to check if these stitches are sitting correct on the needle before step 4. So I just grab the stitch as if I would in the knitting direction and turn it. And this is actually quite tricky, because at first glance it looks as if we have caught the base of the V and it looks nice. But look, it seems as if it is turned here. I hope you can see it, so that it is twisted a bit. So I turn the needle like this, and now you will see that I actually caught the A here from the first stitch, and this is what I want. So I actually have now to change to the other leg. So this is why I picked a double pointed needle, because now I turn it and I slide, and then I take the other end of the circular needle here, and then I pick up the back leg of the stitch, the back leg, the back leg, and I have to make sure that I pick up both strands. And it is a bit tight after the cast on here, but it will work fine. So now you will see here that the stitches are leaning to the left, just like I have illustrated here on the needle. And we have the first leg of the stitch sitting here alone, and then we have the other V's here and picked up the last V. And this is what I mean by we miss half a leg over here. And when we have done the piece, let's have a look if we can identify this leg here. So now we are ready to move on. Let's look at this fourth and final illustration before we start sewing these stitches right together. So we have the A's and the V's here. So we connect the stitches by sewing them, and in this way we create an extra row on the Icord band being these stitches. And we use the Kitchener stitch method. Just one practicality before we start, because I only use this strand while doing the sewing, because this sequence strand is a bit tricky. These sequins often get caught, and if you are like me, sometimes fumbling a bit and have to redo, then it may get ugly over here. So I leave this one out, and see it doesn't necessarily show the sequence band all the way around, because it has this mild effect. So once I have done the sewing, I look at it, and if it looks fine, I leave out this strand. Otherwise, I will sew it in afterwards, and I will remove the sequins and just leave this glimmery strand to be sewed in. So let's now see how we do the Kitchener stitches. So what happened here? I clearly stressed to keep the orientation locked all the way through the process. However, yet just before doing the Kitchener stitches, I turn it upside down again, so it actually is in the knitting direction. So now here I have the open end stitches again and the closed end stitches here. So why do I do this? Yes, I will tell you. Because when we do this band here, if I were to knit yet another row, which I am just in the sewing mode, I would have transferred these stitches back here on the needle and then started knitting over here. So this means that when I now start my sewing, I will take the strand over here and start the sewing together here. Let me show you the effect on the other side. Because when we make this I-cord band, we fasten the outer edge here of the band to the edge of the T, so that we get these kind of bars underneath. And when we do this last and final row here, we need to do the same thing in order for this to be both seamless, but particularly the no-feel seam. So as you can see here, when I do so and start the sewing over here, I will kind of wrap it together just like over here. So that's why. So now the stitches are sitting in the wrong way in order for me to sew over here, but again, no problem when I have these circular needles, because I just pull this out and transfer the stitches onto this one. Just take care again to catch all the strands. So now this one is in place, and I can just pull the other one. Here you go. And we will tuck this sequence strand away because we don't need it now. And I have threaded the needle, so now I'm ready to start the Kitchener stitch. So now that I have turned the work, I can clearly see here that I did pick up the stitches right, because you can see here the V chain of the cast on stitches are sitting nicely here. So I would expect this to turn out fine. Well, the Kitchener stitches. The principle of the Kitchener stitches is to work through these stitches twice, so that we mimic how we would knit them, so they will look knitted. And we start the rhythm by securing the first stitch on each needle first, and then we can start our rhythm by pulling off one stitch and securing the other one. And I try to give myself some kind of rhyme or rhythm in a way so that I can remember what to do. And while securing the first stitches, I say inside out, inside out. And it is actually purlwise and knitwise. So I will start doing this. So now they are secured, and I can see here this, what I call the bar, is forming here underneath. So now I have secured the first two stitches, I can start the rhythm. And the rhythm goes like this. From the needle towards you, you knit off and purl secure. On the back needle, you purl off and knit secure. Knit off, purl secure, and purl off, knit secure. And now I have only the two stitches left, and don't worry about the tension right now of your sewing, because we will correct this now when finalized, so that we get exactly the same tension as the other stitches. So the last one, knit off, purl off. So let's see how it looks. Yeah, well, it doesn't exactly look seamless right now, does it? And it's because now we need to do the tension step. So we started over here working our stitches, so this is why we will start pulling legs here at the strands or at the stitches. And if we have patience, and I think we have, because we want the finishing effect of our tea to be just right. And it can be a bit, yeah, where is it to pull? I will keep fiddling a bit with this, but as you can see already now, look here. Here we have a nice V in the knitting direction, and it is seamless here. We have a nice V here, it's seamless. I just need to do the tension over here, and we will get the same effect. So I will get back when I have fiddled a bit more with these stitches. I think I will stop fiddling the stitches now and show you the rest, because now if this has been the way we did the Icord band, I would knit the last stitch together with the edge here. So let me just find a place to push down or pull down the needle. I think I will go into this stitch here. It was the last one we made on the open end, and I will also catch the one at the closed end, just as long as I do not pull it too tight, because then I will not allow for the extra stitch to be here. So that's what I've been doing now, and when we look at it, I think I succeeded rather well. If I should be picky, and I am, then it seems a bit loose here, and this is exactly because I need the last bar here, so that I will go up from the back here and into this one, so I can pull this outer edge down like this, and there you go. Let me turn the work so we can see the full length of the Icord band, and let's see if we can pass the two tests, that it is seamless. We have the infinity chain test, and we have the no feel seam test passing the slide test. So I will just turn the work. So here we are with the result, and we may recall that we have the end of row here after the cable before the purl stitch here. So we would expect to, yeah, actually not to see this connection here. And what do you think? I feel rather content with the result. And when I feel on this side, I feel no seam. And if I do it underneath, wow, I feel no seam. And let's have a look at the back side. We did the extra stitch here, so here, here, here. What do you think? It looks fairly the same. So now I just need to sew in the ends, because when looking at it, I do not think I need this extra sewing in of the sequin strand. It looks nice. So yeah, I hope this demo found you well, and you can use my tips and tricks. Even though it seems a bit laborious, I will say it's worth all the effort that you get a seamless and no feel seam. Tests passed. Bye bye, Roger and Owe from Inge's Knitting Lab. Let me show you how I join these Icord ends in real time, because maybe when I pin it out in every detail and explaining, it seems very complicated and as a long process, but actually it's not. So I will just do it, not so much talking. It is a bit easier when I'm not sitting here in front of the camera, then it's closer to my chest when I do this. But anyway, now I got these changed, and I need these ones on the needle. I can just slip this one in. And yeah, as you see, I changed to these old-fashioned steel needles, because when using my plastic needle it was a bit tight here and I broke it, so I need a new one. So I leave out the sequin strand. And I have the no-feel seam here, and as I've done this a lot of times, I now know the tension here on how to do it. So now on the back side I need 2 strands here, like these bars. So I go down here and I go down here in another stitch here and up here. I turn my work, and then I look at the last stitch being a bit loose here, and it is because I just have to raise this bar a bit. So I just put my weaving in under this bar. It makes this loose disappear, And in order to fasten, I need 2 bars forward and 1 backwards, like this. Now it's fastened, and I just need to weave in these ends. Actually, I have found out that I don't even need to weave them in, because these sequins make it very hard to move, so actually I can just cut it. But yeah, well, I will cut these 3 ends now. And there you go. Realtime making an I-cord joint.